Hello, and welcome to Season 6, Episode 3 of the Virtual Coffee Podcast. I'm Becca, and this is a podcast that features members of the Virtual Coffee community. Virtual Coffee is an intimate group of developers at all stages of their coding journey, and they're here on this podcast sharing their stories and what they've learned. And we're here to share it with you. Here with me today is my co-host, Dan.
What up, Beck? How's it going?
It is amazing.
I'm serious. It just gives me so much energy coming in like that. I can't do anything else anymore.
It is what it is.
So today we are continuing our streak of awesome guests that started season 1, episode 1 with Seth Hall. Seth is a technical product owner at Uniform. And so one of the questions you might ask is, what does a technical product owner mean? And I'm glad you asked that because Seth talked about it. He explained what that means and why he's so happy in that role. It was sort of a organic transition for him from being I was going to say regular developer, but that's not fair. But being an individual contributor developer to this new role as a product owner.
Yeah,
and it was really cool to hear about.
Well, and I love too, he talked about his transferable skills as a creative producer. So his background in filmmaking and how he brought that over to what he's doing now, which for me was a really interesting exploration of, overlapping that creative process with what he's doing as a technical product owner.
Yes, absolutely. The idea of a producer in, everybody's heard of a producer in the entertainment industry and movies and TV. And of course, there's not always a lot of clarity about what a producer does, for a movie. But the oh man, now I can't remember what kind of producer he said is the one that does what.
Creative producer.
Creative producer. Okay, and so a creative producer is a person who's kind of responsible for shepherding the project, from beginning to end, and make connections between people, and doing a lot more than maybe a project manager or something like that role. And it was really cool, and I love I love that idea, and I love like placing these frameworks, mental frameworks from other industries on top of dev stuff, and seeing how we either have a role that's like that and it just names something different, or maybe it's something the dev industry can actually use to become better. And I feel like creative producer here is like one of those like really cool. It like, I don't know. It seems like a very cool idea to me.
Yeah. And I love how he used the phrase intimate collaboration. And I think that sums up what really makes somebody good at that job. But that's one of those things that it's not a common phrase or a common idea when you're thinking about what a technical product owner does or a producer, but that those connections are what really allow people to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. It was cool. It was very good talking to Seth.
Yeah. And we start this episode of the podcast like we start every virtual coffee, with our names, where we're from, what we do, and answering a random check-in question. So we hope you enjoy this episode. Today's random check-in question is, describe a time you laughed so hard you thought you would cry, or when you did cry. I'm not sure if that makes sense. What was so funny?
Did you read that question before just now?
I did. When we were setting up the podcast, when scheduling everybody, I put questions in all of them. So it's been a minute. Okay. My name is Becca. I am a technical community builder and laughed so hard that I cried. I feel like those moments are great, and I can remember them happening and who they happened with, but I cannot remember why they happened. So like normally it's with people I'm very close friends with, or with my brothers. Usually it's my brothers. And I'm usually laughing at them and not with them. So I don't know. I'll have to think about that more, but I guess I'm laughing. So, I'm trying to think. There was one that was recently. I was laughing so hard. I don't know. I have to come back to it. Send it over to you, Dan.
Um, all right. Hello, my name is Dan. I am from Lakewood, Ohio, the first suburb west of Cleveland. I do web development, and yeah, I have these laughing issues from time to time. Honestly, mostly with my family. I don't know exactly why, but yeah, and my mom gets it too. So sometimes I'll just like have to cover my face and be laughing a lot and probably crying. And the one time that really um comes to mind. Uh, have you guys seen the like the screaming goat videos?
Yes.
Like that were like popular a while ago, and there's one that's like so people started mixing them into songs, and there's like the Taylor Swift song that's like the I know you were trouble, or how's that song go? Some
You,
there's some but
you walked in.
there's some part of that hook, and then there's the screaming goat, and it like just kills me every time. And we were like playing it on my phone, with my family in like the living room. And I just like I was laughing for probably like 15 minutes because my sister started just every time I'd calm down, she'd play it again.
There
you know,
there was
I
a
miss it. I
it
got a
was an
friend that's
Instagram reel or a TikTok that was similar, where somebody was going to film themselves, and while before they got started, they accidentally, like, threw their hip into the side of a bed, and they
oh yeah,
screamed out,
I saw
and
that.
then everybody remixed it, so they screamed like,
Oh,
"Ah!"
yeah.
And so then people are like, like,
Yep.
"Staying alive. Ah!" It would start with that, and then somebody would go on. That was really good.
All right, wait. I think
Awesome.
I can. I think I can. Oh, can I change my microphone while we're recording? Is that possible? Might not be possible. I was gonna play it for everybody, but I don't think I.
Link in the show notes.
Yep, I'll put the
Yep.
link in the show notes so that we don't all have to listen to me breaking down again. Probably a good call.
I used to laugh so hard when we started the podcast.
Yes, that was always fun. It's fun
Was out
making
of
that happen.
nervousness maybe, or out
It
of
was
like
it was,
the
like, straight up
red light
nerves.
syndrome?
Yeah.
Dan would be like, "Go," and I'd start the intro, could not hold it together, could not. It took me like, even if I was recording it by myself, it took a really long time. Maybe season 2 is when I finally calmed down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I also like the like times where you are really not supposed to laugh, but you're like standing in front of some whatever, but you make eye contact with one of your friends or
Oh my
somebody who
gosh.
knows
Yeah.
you're trying not to laugh or whatever. Those are always really
Yep.
fun for me too. Except for
Well,
when I'm in
that's a
editing.
good segue into mine. My name is Seth Hall. I'm a technical product owner at Uniform, and for me, laughter has been a huge part of my life. Um, just with all my friends, I think it initially started as a coping mechanism, just from my childhood. But I was always like cracking up in school, and I remember one time my cousin and I were at a funeral or something. We were like 8 years old at a funeral, and like we had to be separated. We were laughing so hard, but we like found each other through the pews, across the whole church, and we're still cracking up. And so laughter has been a great medicine for me, but it's got me in trouble a lot. But yeah, so it's just like such a healing thing for me, and I still have great friends that we just instantly crack up with our inside humor, right? I mean, no one else would think it was funny, but yeah. So I'm like Becca. I can't think of a specific time, another specific time, but it's always been a constant kind of thing for me, and it if I can laugh with you, then I'm already feel like halfway like you're my best friend. You know what I mean? And then if we can talk about like deep stuff, like real
Yeah.
authentic stuff, then we're best mates. So, but yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
that reminded me of a time I was at church with a classmate, and one of us, we were like singing in church, right? And sang the wrong verse, right? And like very loudly. And then there was like no coming back,
Yeah.
laughing so hard. We
Yep.
were definitely crying. Somebody had to get up and leave because it was just like totally
Yeah.
inappropriate and disruptive, which like, makes it even funnier. I
What's
feel
even
like
funnier?
you're
Yeah.
like,
I mean, I hate to even think about what I put my teachers through in school. I mean, I just was like, for me, like if I had known comedy was actually a career back in then, like nowadays people like, oh, you got improv and all these different YouTube things. And like people go, I want to be a comedian. They go and they pursue that. But I never even knew it was a career, but I listened to comedy constantly growing up. And then the thrill of making people laugh, which is what I did a ton of, it just was like a huge like thrill. I mean, it was great, and I like couldn't get enough of it, and to the point where I said it was actually disrespectful, now that I look back. But that's part of growing up, I guess, being young and immature and stuff.
Yeah, always. I always, if there were a personality trait that I could just like download into my brain, it would be making people laugh. I don't know. That's not really a personality
Oh
trait,
yeah.
but you get I always would love to make people laugh. My grandma was really great at it. And I always wish that like I had that same ability because it kind of what you're saying, Set, that idea of if you can laugh together with somebody, then you're friends. And then that does often lead to that opportunity to dive deeper into things because there's this almost like built-in trust that happens when you can get
Yep.
into that deep laughter together.
That's right.
Well,
Totally. It's a
thanks.
good question.
Yeah, yeah. Now I'm like, what is the neurobiology of laughing together? Um, thanks for being here with us today, Seth. We're very
My
excited to
pleasure.
have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having
Uh,
me. It's awesome.
yeah, we always like to start with origin stories. So, how have you got to this point in your world of your journey of being Seth Hall?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you the short version. Um, yeah. So for me, I'll just start with kind of how I ended up in development. Like when I was, I always liked creative stuff growing up. I grew up in a single family home. I had a lot of like time to myself, and music was a big escape for me. So when I became an adult, I just say when in my 20s, I was like, I am going to do something different. I'm not going to do a typical path that you take or you're told that you're supposed to take. So I graduated from college and then went and pursued music. So I played independent music you know, for a long time. Um, I also did video production and film production during all that time. And then I continued, did music for about pretty hardcore for 15 years. Then I just kind of transitioned into the video film, and then I kind of got into digital stuff, got my first computer and was like, graphic design, learning how to log into web apps and all that kind of stuff back in 2006. And then 2011, in the middle of my film and video pursuits, I started making websites, and it wasn't really planned. It just kind of happened. And so I started teaching myself WordPress and all that stuff, that kind of normal story. I got my first tech job in 2013. During that job, I decided I wanted to go get my master's in film producing. So I went to a film school here in North Carolina called University of North Carolina School of the Arts. And that was a great experience. I loved it. I took a break from coding for a while to produce videos for the school, actually, in their marketing department. I made like 3 or 4 short films. But then I got to a point where I was like, okay, I don't really want to make videos anymore because I've done that so much. Filmmaking doesn't pay. I thought, well, maybe I'll do go back into development, or maybe I'll do something developer adjacent. So I thought about being a scrum master. I was like, oh, I've worked in agile. And so I kind of pursued that a little bit. And then I realized, you know what, I really like development. So 2000, and it just, it's a lot of opportunities, and it pays well, and it's fun and challenging. So back in 2019, December, I jumped back in full force. And shortly after, I joined Virtual Coffee, and so for all of 2020 and all of 2021, I basically was doing front end development, multiple contracts. Some of them were toxic. Some of them didn't value me. Like, they weren't great experiences. But I just kept pursuing. And then I found a job at Uniform, a job posting at Uniform. It sounded just like me. It was working in the Jamstack as a front end developer. It wasn't a product. It was like demos. So like our internal team demos our product with like fake websites essentially. So I was like, oh, that's great. I can basically make client websites without the client. I can be a part of a product team without being on the product team. And so I got hired as a demo engineer. And I've been working for them for about 4 months now, maybe 5 months. But shortly after I got hired, it became evident that what they really needed was someone to own the demos, like product own the demos, not actually code the demos. So I transitioned to a technical product owner where I'm working with designers, tech lead for developers, marketers, sales engineers. Like I'm working with a lot of people to kind of guide all the demo tracks and demo initiatives we have. But I'm like now I'm planning roadmaps. I'm basically producing like I did in film. Like with film, I used to do camera, sound, editing, all the stuff. Then I moved to producing where I was like hiring those people and knew what they were doing and I was planning the project. Well, now it's an interesting equivalent is I used to be in the trenches of front end, as y'all know, because we've talked many times about it. But now I'm like planning that stuff. So I'm not the developer, but I'm developer adjacent. So my initial, thought back in 2019 where maybe I could do something developer adjacent has like come to fruition like on accident. And I am absolutely loving it. So that's kind of how I ended up here. To me, development is very much aligns with my goals in life. It's like it's creative, it's challenging, it's fun, it's flexible. It doesn't rule my life. I get to go to work in my office and get to leave and be with my family. So like everything I wanted when I was 20, when I pursued music and film, I have found that. I have found autonomy, good pay, satisfactory work, and I'm not like it's very unique too in a way. Even though there's a lot of developers, it's still a unique way to make a living because most people I talk to don't do what I do. So it checks all the boxes for me. So yeah, that's kind of my origin story and a professional origin story. And I'm very happy where I am. I haven't been happier in my tech career than I am now. So
Yeah, I love that. I want to backtrack just a second. And so you've done a lot of different things. I love how you say that this kind of like mimics some of the things that you were doing before with producing and how those skills lead here. But
mhm.
was there like a pivotal moment for you when you decided that you were ready to make this transition? Because, I think it's sometimes hard to, you're kind of toying with the idea, or maybe you take on a little bit of side work. But at some point, you have to say, there's a career transition and now I'm going to go all in.
Yeah, so from like film to web wasn't planned at all. It was I sort of just felt this call and this draw to do it. And all of a sudden I had four WordPress clients. And this is like had no experience. So I was doing all the stuff you do to learn WordPress. And of course, that's not the best platform to learn on because it's super confusing.
Yes.
But I mean, but that's good. I was in the trenches. So it was never a conscious effort. It was just something that I ended up doing and I just did it because I liked it. And I worked the nights and weekends because I liked it. And then it started paying. Then I got my first tech job, and so, but the transition between a front end engineer to a product owner, that was very much a welcome transition because as y'all have seen or know, like front end development, parts of it are easy, quote unquote easy, but a lot of it is really difficult. And I just found myself I just was getting tired of the grind. I was getting tired of like not breaking through and not, still not knowing stuff and still not knowing how to learn stuff I don't know. And yeah, I could, put together a Jamstack site. I could do some product feature work and stuff, but it just got to be exhausting. And my skill sets are very much relational, communicative, listening, validating, planning. I mean, I'm engineering there's a in my personal life, I'm like producing the biggest thing I've ever done, which might come up. But like my mindset and my default is like to dig in there and organize a big thing. And that could be a movie. That could be now it's a 3 different demo tracks, and in my life, it's other personal stuff that I'm producing essentially. And so yeah, so it was the initial thing wasn't a conscious effort. It really was out of nowhere. And I was kind of like, what? Like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm trying to pursue film. What do you mean? What's going on here? But it quickly became something like, okay, this is really good for me. Yeah.
So you used the word producing a few times there, and that's a word that you don't usually hear in the development like side of things, right? But you hear it a lot in
Yeah.
entertainment.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if your experience with in film school and stuff like that, the producer. I'm not in entertainment. I listen to some podcasts and stuff, but like
Yeah.
if there's some bit of that you took away from the from film school to guide your work now as a sort of a producer,
100%. Totally, totally. In software we'd call it project management, I guess. You know,
Yeah, right. But that's
um,
that's I don't feel like that covers every. To me, the word producer has a bit of a different kind of. I mean, it's close, there's overlap, but
yeah,
like a bit of a different connotation. I think it's a good word to use. But I'd like to
yeah,
hear what you like.
yeah.
What you think
So
of
I
when you
got
think of that.
yeah, that's a good question. I got my master's in creative producing, which so in film there's a lot of different producers. There's like your boots on the ground producer. There's associate producers. There's executive producers who like fund it or make a connection and they get a credit. But then the creative producer is the one that like comes up with the idea or like options a script. Becca, you know about this. And then they hire the writer. They develop the script, and then they take the script into raising money or making a pitch deck to raise money. And then they take that money and they go into pre-production, and then they keep going through production and post and marketing and distribution. So creative producer is like the unsung hero essentially in film, because most film, it falls on the director or the star of the movie. But the producer doesn't get much credit, but without the producer, it wouldn't even exist. And so all through that process, really that process is all about like, it's all about like, for example, like what are we trying to say? Like, in who's our audience, right? Both of those things can translate to a product in software. And then like, who are the people I'm working with? How do I communicate with them? That translates to software. And then the nuts and bolts of it all, which is let's plan the project and actually do the work. Same thing in software. And so it, it it just seems like a perfect thing for me, because it's like already what I was good at, and I've already got all the experience in it, and it 100% is transferable over to software. It's just different medium and different ways to do it. Like you don't have editors and in software, but you have QA, quality and assurance or whatever. You don't have sound audio mixers, but you have front end developers or back end or security or whatever. So I learned a ton going to school. Like I took what I had already learned in life and then like just applied it to uh intimate collaboration, and then like different personalities and different cultures and different ages and different genders and everything. Like, because when I went to art school, I was like 20 years older than most people, and there was a ton of people that were just different than me, but I really just got to respect them and see what they were about and learn how to be with them and learn how to deal with conflict and learn how to persevere on a giant project that seems never ending. And that is software development in many ways. So that's kind of what I transferred over, and it's just same skill set, just different application essentially.
I love that. I love that a lot. And you hit one of our virtual coffee bingo words, which is intimate.
Uh,
And I think you used the phrase
Yes.
intimate collaboration, which I love. And it paints such a different picture that from that mindset, paints such a different picture than some of the software. Like when you come at it from the software land, everybody, software developers, lots of times want to remove the human aspects of things, right? And they build tools to like plug things in, or project management tools, or everybody has stacks of cards to sorry, everyone has stacks of cards to get through.
R2,
Rookie
And
yeah.
Teach is here.
I
I
know
didn't
he's
know that
always
was a
bothering
guest.
me. uh
Is he like bringing you
like
a drink or
special
something?
guest. Yeah, I know. He brings me my scotch at the under my desk at the end of the day. Except it's the middle of the day. Anyway, what was I saying? So yes, I think that's probably another connection between um your experience within the entertainment, in the film realm is making these connections is such an important thing, and it's very important in software too. But I think it gets people tend to abstract it away. People tend to abstract away the
Mhm.
human connection aspect of anything, and I feel like the work we're all doing, and everybody sort of naturally does a virtual coffee, whether they are officially doing it or not. Um, and I'm seeing other people start to swing this way too. Is lots of people talk about community these days and building communities in your company and things like making connections like that. And I think we're finding out like it's so important to foster those sort of intimate connections. And obviously, you can go probably too far. But
Sure.
like remembering that all the people are people, right? And everybody that works on a project has their own stake in it. And it's the project's going to be better if you have somebody like that, have somebody like um, fostering these intimate, connections and stuff. I think
Yeah.
that's
I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, and part of that is like, we is giving shout outs to people, whatever you want to say, like acknowledging people and celebrating them. Now you had mentioned community and how it's kind of becoming more prevalent in software. And to me, that's great because that's what it is. That's what it's about for me, just in many ways is friendship and authenticity and, you know, intimate, friendships that are real, that like bring the joy to life and bring things to life. That's what it is for me. And so part of that is like, at work, I like to do shout outs to people and like really just celebrate people and I'm a super positive, I don't want to have any conflict. If there is conflict, I'll deal with it. But like, and I've had so many jobs where it's just like not like that at all. And it makes me so anxious and nervous. And I don't know how to find my footing. And like, I just feel like undervalued and just not in the right place. And so at Uniform, like it's the exact opposite. Like everybody is super friendly, super laid back, um, just very welcoming and a community. It's like culturally at Uniform, the culture at Uniform is very, uh, like on point. It's great. And it fits my personality. And so from that, I feel valued and I feel empowered to do really good work. Right. I mean, that's how it works. You
Yeah.
appreciate people and you're a nice, pleasant people to be around. You're going to want to work hard and collaborate together to do things as opposed to feeling like you're walking on thin ice or whatever.
I love that, and I think that one of the words you used, authenticity, is so important because I think that there are a number of companies out there that recognize that community within the company is good and can be really useful, but they come at it from not an authentic approach, like, "We're gonna make this company a community," right? And then there's this forcefulness, like, "We're gonna be a community. Now you have to go to this fun thing that we're all doing
Yeah,
together," right? Like,
sure, sure.
no, I don't wanna do that fun thing all together. Um, there has to be that authenticity there that allows for vulnerability and openness. And, I've also seen a number of leaders in positions that kind of, I don't know the right word for this. They perform authenticity.
Mhm.
So they act in a way that appears to be authentic, but like
Yeah,
the
which is
further
inherently not authentic. Yeah.
Yeah, and the further you get into it, then it just, like then the, like, suspicious radar goes up. I'm like, I don't know that you're a person that I can really trust and talk to," and then that creates more of a divide, and when you have that, when you don't have somebody who's authentic or vulnerable or, even getting back to that, like, intro question of somebody that you can laugh with, then there's this distance, there's this guard that you can put up or that you might put up that makes it harder for you to be effective at your job or to communicate with other people because there's always this like leeriness about where you stand in that, you know, relationship or in that collaboration or whatever it is. So I think that, having someone authentic leading a team is so important in
Yeah,
forming those bonds that you need for your company.
totally. We just implemented this thing called 15.5. It's a online web service that allows for like it manages one-on-ones, it manages like high fives. You can give, internal high fives. And it really opens it fosters that kind of community and that kind of culture. And so that's why my company is a Series A funded startup. So they're just beginning to like hire and work on culture and work on all that stuff that they in the beginning you don't do that because you're building a product to get the funding. But now that they have the funding, all these things are locking into place, and it's just such a relief to know that that's there, and it like to not walk into work and not be anxious and not be nervous. you know? I'm not dreading, like, how am I going to make this JavaScript thing happen? You know what I mean? Like, how am I going to do this? Like, I should know, and then start beating myself up. I should know this already. I've been doing this for this long. And anyway, and that's just to kind of highlight the importance of community. And I will say that, when I discovered virtual coffee, I don't even remember how I discovered it. I think it was through Drew Clemens
Oh,
somehow. I
yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah.
remember.
I think that's true.
I forget. I somehow found him and then found virtual coffee, and it was like a huge breath of fresh air.
He was doing Protege, so was it through Protege,
Yeah, it was
maybe?
probably through that. I was probably looking for jobs, and I saw him through Protege, and then I saw virtual coffee through him, and then I ended up working on Protege through that too, which was interesting. But um, it was such a when I discovered virtual coffee, it was a godsend, essentially, because we were in the middle of I was in the middle of the pandemic, right? We were all in the middle of the pandemic. I had moved out to the mountains, which I like being out in the mountains, but I also like people, Um, and it saved me in many ways because it helped me keep going as a developer, and it helped me develop friendships, and it's, and that's it. That's community, right? That's what community does. It kind of, it gives, a lot of things start to bloom, right? All these beautiful things start blooming from it. And we can see it every day on our Slack team, is that, like, people are doing this and doing that, and there's support here, there's support there. And then you got in-person meetups, and that's just a beautiful thing about the virtual coffee, I think. And I'm sure you never even expected that when you started it. You might have
Nope.
thought something like it, but yeah, it just all of us coming together to support each other really makes the industry, makes our lives better, but it makes the industry better, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that any opportunity that you have for that close collaboration with people, openness with other people can be just I don't know. I mean, yeah, you can be more productive that way, but that's just a really beautiful part of the human experience. And I think that we often don't think about that we it's complicated, right? Because we want our jobs to
Mm,
stop. We don't want them to go on all the time and to feel like we can never leave our computers. But there's something to be said for finding time to pause and make meaningful relationships with the people who are on your team.
yeah.
Um, that helps you to be better, everybody to be better at their jobs. But ultimately we are not our jobs, we are human beings.
Yep.
And so what helps us to become better at that, or to grow, or to become the people that we want to be, our jobs take up a big portion of our lives. So finding something that allows you to continue on that path of being the person that you want to be, and to be able to do the
Yes.
things that you want to do outside of work, is really
Yep.
important.
Yep. 100%. That's basically what my 20-year-old self was saying to myself. It's just like, there's got to be more. Like, I need something meaningful, right? I need something that's just not like just the typical middle of the road, And I'm not saying this for everybody, but it's I've always pursued my dreams in my heart, and for good, for better or for worse. But it's gotten me this far, right? It's gotten me in a career that I love, being with my family every day, well paid, well respected, and creative. And like you said, it's not my life. My life is outside of work, in many ways. So, yeah, I feel like I won the lottery essentially in some ways. But I spent a lot of money on lottery tickets and went through a lot to get here. But
And it's all part of the journey, right? I mean, I certainly never, if 5.5 years ago, if you would have asked me where I expected to be, it certainly was not here. Um,
yeah,
there was a lot that went into this journey, and a lot of, like, really hard things to navigate. But I
yes,
wouldn't take any of those hard things back, because it shaped me into the person I am, and I'm happy with who I am right now, probably more than I ever have been in my life.
for
And
sure. Yep.
all of those circumstances and all of the people that I've met, especially in the last 3 years, have been on that journey with me and allowed me to, kind of embrace this Becca that I am
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. That's a good place to be.
So okay, so as you're going through this, you have mentioned a couple of times that you had some experiences with other companies that weren't so great. You went through some difficult interviewing experiences, and now you're at this really great place. But I wonder if you could give yourself some advice looking back now. So when you were going through these hard experiences, what would you tell yourself to kind of give you that hope that you needed to make it to this point?
Yeah. I would just say, I mean, off the top of my head, that like rejection's part of the process and perseverance is key. And just, it's really hard to do this, but most of the time things aren't personal, right? It's just, in terms of interviewing, it's just you weren't a good fit or you bombed the interview or whatever. But to like separate your identity from that and separate your, um, how you feel about yourself and stuff. It's really hard when you need money, you need a job, and you have a family and stuff. You're super stressed about it, and then you got to go do more interviews and stuff. But yeah, like don't be hard on yourself. Like don't, just trust. I mean, it's a big part of my life is trust the process, right? Whether that be any films that I produce or all the day in and day out of what I'm doing for my work or even my family. It's just like, just do the work that's ahead of you for the day, clock out, enjoy your life, go back the next day and do the work that's ahead of you, and just trust that that's the process and you will eventually get somewhere. Um, and then I also am a big I'm a big advocate in advocating for myself, but, I'm a big, believer in like standing up for yourself, believing in yourself, knowing what you want, like going to get it. And that's not in like a greed, like, way. It's just like, I want to do this. So I'm going to work really hard to do this thing, whatever that is. And, so like believing in yourself, extending grace to yourself, um, 100% find your people who can help you, AKA virtual coffee. So yeah, I think off the top of my head, those would be some things I would say to myself. Um, I would also be, when you have a community, you can run red flags by people. You can say, hey, is this a red flag? Or, and if someone's mistreating you, stand up for yourself. I know that's easy for me to say for who I am, but not everybody can do that. But, and I'm just happen to be comfortable with discomfort, I guess you could say. So like if someone's treating me bad, I'm going to, stand up for myself and try not to be a jerk about it, try not to be combative, but, just believe in myself and know what's right and what's wrong in a situation. But I mean, you guys know it's so hard to, when you're navigating interviews, it's like soul sucking. It sucks.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was last summer actually at this time, I was interviewing with 2 companies, and I had heard people say that the interview process was soul crushing, and I was like, there's no way it's soul crushing." And then I was invited to apply to 2 of these positions, and it was still soul crushing. I'm like, "This
Hmm.
is the worst.
No.
I never want to do this ever again." And it
Yeah.
is. I mean, it just requires so much out of you, in a number of different ways, and just
Hmm.
kind of is, um, I don't know, puts you through this furnace, and how you come out of that, it can be, you might be very burnt, or, maybe you come out a diamond. I felt like that was really cheesy.
Yeah, that was a little rough.
I don't know. Sorry. Sorry for the bad the bad metaphor. But the point is kind of like what you were saying, Seth, this idea of, don't take it personally, and think about it too as part of that journey, right? I like to think of the hero's journey, and we're all the hero in our own story, and what the hero goes through, right? And the hero in the mythological structure of the hero, first of all, there are many challenges that the hero has to navigate, and that
Mm,
defines the trajectory of the journey. But also, the hero never does it by themselves. There's always some type of mentor. There are allies that they have. There are resources or training or different things that enable them to continue to move forward. And in that way, we can continue to push forward, but recognizing that we're not on this journey alone. There are other people that are there with us to support us through those tough times. And when things do get tough, then rather than pull away or try and do it on your own, leaning on some of those people or finding your allies or mentors or whatever can be the difference between being stuck in your journey and continuing forward.
mm, yeah, it's a great point.
So, um, your job, you're the technical product owner, and I'm just kind of circling back a little bit because I have never heard of anyone being a technical product owner before. So, just to kind of get a better sense of what you're doing, can you talk us through like maybe one of the projects that you're working on or the things that you do find really interesting about that work?
Sure. Yeah, I think it could be even considered a product manager, right? Not a project manager, but a product manager. So it's an agile term, product owner, and it is basically, I mean, again, it's the creative producer of software or whatever, because it's communicating with all the stakeholders, figuring out what you need, figuring out the direction of the product, um, what's the roadmap, what are the priorities, um, breaking all that down into tickets, communicating all that to tech, to communicating all those needs to developers, right? That's a special kind of transition there. And also working with multiple stakeholders. So it's an agile term. It could also be product manager, I guess maybe PM or whatever. But the technical side of it is because I was a front end developer and I was originally hired to be a front end developer in the trenches building out Jamstack sites. And when this transition came, I was like, okay, I can see that. I was like, but I still like have all this technical knowledge. And my CTO is the one that said it. It's like, we look at you more like a technical product owner. I was like, great, let's do it. And what that means is I just understand what's happening on the development side. I understand what it takes to do a feature, or I understand what's happening. I'm just not the one doing it. But I'm still like spinning up, I'm still doing front end stuff where I'm like, I'm doing all the repo stuff and doing the README and going through all the steps of the README and installing NPM packages and all that kind of stuff. So I'm still in the technical area. I'm just not a front end developer like I used to be. And what I love about it is the different groups I work with. Like I get to hang out with designers and talk about UX and UI. I get to review designs. I get to offer tweaks and I get to think of it as a developer because I know, oh, this image is huge. Let's figure out what image size we need or whatever that comes up from the developer mindset when talking to designers. And then I get to talk to like marketers, and that's a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but I'm a people person, so I can talk to them and ask what they need and like what do you need to demo? Like, what are you trying to, like the first thing I did when I got to this job was I talked to I had like 20 meetings or something in no time at all. And I was talking to everybody about what are the pain points of the current demo ecosystem. Like you're taking this product, Uniform's platform, and you're demoing it to people. What are you missing? Like, what are they asking for? What do you want to see? And what it ended up being was like, well, we got like 3 or 4 different demos that are all doing random things. And we need all those features and functionalities into a consolidated, redesigned, redeveloped demos, so I get to, and I really do look at it as like basically making client Jamstack sites. My client just happens to be my coworkers,
Yeah.
right? So they're asking me for stuff and I'm saying, well, I can or can't do that this sprint, or, okay, cool, I'll work that in. And then I'm going over to tech lead and saying, "Hey, we need to do this," and he goes, "Okay, cool. Well, I'll work up the tech side of that, and we'll pass the issues down to the developers, and then the developers deliver it to me, and I do user assurance testing where I'm like, okay, that's what I wanted, that's what we need, and or I'll say, hey, this responsive, you know, layout is wrong, or hey, you know, we need to do this different. And so I like the idea, or I like my job in the sense that I get to talk to all these different people, right? When I was a front end developer, it was me by myself banging my head against the wall reading tutorials, and you know, then I would ping virtual coffee people and have, you know, different co-working sessions and stuff. But most of the time it was me by myself. And so I love that part of it. I love that I get to understand these big features and understand how to make them happen, but I don't have to be the one coding it. I really like that. Um, and that's just because it was, like I said before, it could be super difficult to solve these technical problems. And I like being the one who's guiding it, encouraging, getting people stoked, updating our progress, you know, knowing what they accomplished. Like, man, you guys did a really hard feature. Good job, you know, and the way I communicate my tickets to them, my GitHub issues to them, they know that I know that stuff. You know what I mean? Because I'm able to be like, hey, can you change this tailwind class to so and so instead of so and so because the whatever, you know? So it's like I'm getting this to be developer adjacent. And so a product owner really just sees the product from it takes everything in, it plans the whole thing out, and then it like releases stuff out to the client, and then it takes feedback, puts that into the roadmap, and keeps the cycle going.
Yeah, I really love that because, well, for a number of reasons, but there are so many people that are coming into tech right now that it's oversaturated with people looking for junior positions. But what you've done is you've leveraged all of your non-technical skills or non-coding skills and transferred them over into a job that makes you really good at that job. And so I think that sometimes people are developers and they move over into different positions that are management, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're not well suited for those. They're really good
Mm-hmm.
at being a developer, but also that's not the only job that you can have if you've gone to a boot camp or if you've taught yourself how to code or if you have a CS degree, whatever. There are these tech adjacent jobs that require you to have this knowledge and understanding, but also give you space to bring all of the past history that you have doing
Mm-hmm.
producing stuff, and make you really give you the ability to really excel at what you're doing. And I think that I'm glad that you're here talking about that, because I think that it would be great to have more people talking about that and
Mm-hmm.
getting more people in positions like you are in enabling those intimate collaborations to happen, so more people feel supported in tech, because we also hear so many stories at virtual coffee of people who are in terrible jobs.
Yes.
um and this having more people doing what you're doing, I think, helps to create a much more welcoming tech community.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, like I said, it's, I mean, really by the grace of God, honestly, that it even happened, because I wasn't, while I was interested in it, and I could say that would be cool to do. I didn't really plan it. It just kind of happened. And at first I was like, what do you mean I'm not going to be coding out this stuff? I thought you hired me as an engineer. And it was just a classic startup. Well, now we know we need this. And we have a marketing engineering team, which handles the website, our integrations, handles demos. So we want you to just, we like what they said. This one thing they said to me, they said, the technical skills you have, a lot of people have, but not many people have the other skills you have. And I was like, awesome. Like that's why I believe in developing those kind of skills. I call them relational skills, but um, it is, I find it a little bit easier to develop relational skills than tech skills sometimes. And I also find it more natural to have to be organizational, seeing the big picture, planning. But I happen to have a tech background, so it helps me understand how to talk to designers and developers and stuff. Um, So yeah, I just feel like after all these years of like wandering around and trying to figure it out and like sacrificing and not giving up and like just pushing. I'm in the most comfortable place I've been I feel the happiest I've been in my career, maybe ever. Um, and so that's just such a blessing. I'm very thankful for that. And I really don't know how much control I had over it. I think it just, I don't know. You could say, that if you put yourself out there, things will happen or whatever. There's a lot of philosophies and beliefs you could say, but really to me, it's just a natural progression that happened. And I was able to see what it was and go, yes, this is it. This is it. This is it for me. And I feel like I'm thriving. And and like I said before, I feel valued. I feel empowered because of my company, because I'm in more of a comfort zone. Where before in front end development, there was oftentimes I was out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes, I mean, I pretty much just want to wrap up here. I think this seemed like a good place to stop in general. I mean, I personally really appreciated hearing your story. I liked hearing about product owners, and I love this idea of the producer, like the creative producer, and applying
Mm,
to to tech. I think it's a fantastic approach, and
yeah,
probably plenty of people that are doing it and not using that name, or not using that.
exactly. Yeah,
I think that your instincts behind doing all that is are really spot on, and I think you're gonna be really valuable. Um, at this job.
appreciate that, man.
I think it's really cool, and I think it's a very cool skill set, and I don't know if you want to call it a talent or whatever, but like just a valuable thing for any company, anybody that's producing software, to have somebody like
Yeah.
that,
Well, I mean, it takes so much to do anything, right? I mean, even a basic website, it's a lot to wrangle together, and it's a lot to think about, and so it helps to have a team of people who have different, I guess you could say, skill sets or leanings or whatever, but because not everybody is going to be, a great backend developer, but you're going to need backend development. So it's just a part of the team. I look at as a team as a whole, just like when I was doing film, like it takes a village to make something, and software and web development is the exact same in most cases. But there are some people out there who can just do it by themselves, and I've always looked at them in amazement. But I'm a big believer in just the team, the collaboration, someone to bounce ideas off of. You don't feel alone. The burden is shared, all those things.
Yeah, I love that. Well, before we wrap up, is there any last words of wisdom or any projects that you want to talk about?
Um, Not really any projects. I mean, I did have a little win this week. I had my first release ever in this role, this kind of
Mhm.
role. Like I was responsible for the everything that comes with the release. Now, granted, it's an internal, right? I'm not running a product, we have users, but so it's a little bit less pressure maybe because it's internal and you got people who are forgiving and you're working to get it out and you don't have users yelling at you on Twitter or whatever. Um, but no, so no particular projects. Just I just we've talked about this a lot in virtual coffee. Like transferable skills, I think are really important. So anybody can. I think there's a lot of things that people might know or might be good at they don't realize they could apply. And it could be
Yes.
technical, but it might be mostly relational.
Mhm.
Like because you got to remember that what we're doing. Like people will hire you based on how you are as a person more so than your technical skills because you can teach technical technical skills, but you can't teach someone to be nice or have integrity or have good character. It's a thing you people say. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but
I think that's great advice.
just keep going. That's an easy outro. Just keep going and believe in yourself, and hopefully something should pop up.
So great. Thanks so much for being here and sharing your story with us, Seth.
Thanks, Seth.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I always love talking to y'all. So looking forward to another time and catch y'all online.
Bye.
Sounds good. Bye.
All right. See ya.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Virtual Coffee Podcast. This episode was produced by Dan Ott and Becca Hara-Weigel. If you have questions or comments, you can hit us up on Twitter at virtualcoffeeio or email us at podcast@virtualcoffee.io. You can find the show notes, sign up for the newsletter, check out any of our other resources on our website, virtualcoffee.io. If you're interested in sponsoring Virtual Coffee, you can find out more information on our website at virtualcoffee.io/sponsorship. Please subscribe to our podcast and be sure to leave us a review. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.